All right, so today we're talking about translating expressions, equations, and inequalities. So there's some keywords and phrases that you need to know in order to do this properly. So we're going to focus on addition words first, and then subtraction, multiplication, division. So some key phrases that you need to know. If it's talking about addition, you're going to see the words sum, total, plus, increase by, more than. Now, these are just some examples. It's not all of the words you'll see for addition, but these ones are ones that you see more often than others. For subtraction, your keywords would be difference, minus, decreased by, less than, and subtracted from. And I put a little star next to less than or subtracted from because we're going to use those later too. For multiplication, your keywords are times, product, of, twice, and double or triple. For division, you'll see these words, quotient, separate, divided by, or half of or third of something. Now, there's also phrases that tell you if you need to use parentheses, or if you need to turn the whole equation or expression around. The parentheses phrases would be like times the sum of, or times the difference of, the difference between. So if you're seeing something and then like one of those keywords that tells you to find the sum or the difference or the quotient, that's telling you that that stuff should go in parentheses, and then the rest of the problem should go around that. For a turnaround phrase, now these are the two starred ones from up at the top in subtraction. If you see less than or subtracted from, that means that you're turning the whole thing around. So if it says 6 less than 5, you're going to do 5 minus 6 as your actual expression because it's a turnaround phrase. Yes, phrase. All right, so examples. So we have a couple examples just to go through so you can see what this would look like with expressions, and then with equations, and then with inequalities as well. So the product of a number and 3. That's saying the product, according to the top of our page, is multiplication. So we're taking a number and 3 and we're multiplying them. So I'm going to go ahead and take my number and 3. In this case, I'm going to use n for my number. So I have 3 times n. You can use x if you want to as well, but since it says a number and 3, I'm going to use n because n stands for number. For number 2, it says the difference between a number and 10. So this is the difference between, so that means I'm just going to write it as is, take that number, and then subtract 10. So my number minus 10. For number 3, we have the quotient of a number and negative 5. So quotient means division. There's two ways I can write this. I can write this as the quotient of the number and negative 5, or I can write this as the quotient of the number and negative 5. Both of these ways are correct. Okay, so for number 4, it says 4 subtracted from a number. So that subtracted from, the from word here, is the key phrase that tells us this is a turnaround phrase. So I need to take whatever's last and subtract that from whatever's first. So it says the number is last, so I'll do n minus, and the part that's first is 4. For number 5, it says the sum of twice a number and 7. So it says the sum of twice a number and 7. So I got to do the twice a number part, and then do the sum of both that part and 7. So twice a number would be 2 times a number. Sum means I'm adding, and then I'm going to add the 7. All right, and then for number 6, it says the product of a number and 10 increased by 1. So that means I'm taking that first part, the product of a number and 10. That's all one part of it. And then I'm taking that and increasing it by 1. So the product of a number and 10, product again means multiplication. So I'm taking 10 times my n, and then I'm increasing that by 1, so plus 1. Right, so 2 more in the expression section. So we have 4 less than a number squared. The phrase less than is a turnaround phrase, so I know that I need to flip this for my final answer. So we're going to start with a number squared. So it's n squared. And then less than means subtract 4. So when I'm turning it around, I'm making sure I'm putting that second part first. So then for number 8, it says twice a number divided by 5. So I have twice a number, which would be 2n, and then we're dividing that by 5. Or you can do 2n over 5 like this. Now, we haven't talked about equations and inequalities so much yet for solving purposes, but I do want to go ahead and just write what these look like as you write them out. So it says, for number 9, the sum of twice a number and 10 is 36. So when you have an equation, they're going to tell you the word is, and that's your key word for equals. So you want to make sure if you see the word is, then you're going to have two separate sides, one on one side of the equal sign, one on the other. So for number 9, it says the sum of twice a number and 10 is 36. So the sum of twice a number and 10 goes first. So the sum of twice of a number and 10 is means equals 36. All right, so the sum is here, twice a number and 10 right there. For number 10, it says 3 times the difference of a number and 7 is 18. So I know it is 18, so I know it's equals 18. So I can focus on this part, 3 times the difference of a number and 7. So times the difference means that this 3 is going to be on the outside of the parentheses. So 3 times the difference of a number and 7. So the difference of a number and 7 would be subtraction, a number and 7. Okay? So for number 11, we're doing 4 times a number divided by 8 is 3. So 4 times the number, I know that that is 4n, and we're dividing it by 8, and it is 3. You can also write it as 4n with the division sign 8, but I'm going to just stick to writing it like this. Okay, for 12, we have 5 times the sum of a number and 6 is 48. So we have times the sum, so that again is telling me that there's going to be parentheses here. So 5 times the sum means addition, okay, of something, we're just going to focus on that for now, is 48. So I know it equals 48. So the part on the inside here is the sum of a number and 6. So I have a number, and then I have 6. For number 13, we have 1/2 of a number is 8 less than the number itself. So let's focus on this. We have the word is here, so I know there's going to be the equals. So I have 1/2 of a number on 1/2 of this. So 1/2 of a number, okay, is equal sign 8 less than the number itself. Less than is one of those turnaround phrases, so I know I need to put the 8 last. So 8 less than the number itself, n. For number 14, we have the product of a number and 3 is the same as the sum of that number and 6. So if you want to go ahead and pause these and try this one, that's fine. If you're still not comfortable, just follow along with me. So I'm going to first identify where my is statement is. It's right here. Okay, so I'm going to have my equals, and I know everything in front of that is on this side, and everything after that is on this side. So I have the product of a number and 3. So the product of a number and 3 means we're multiplying our 3 times our n. And then on the other side, we have it's the same as the sum of that number, which we picked n, and 6. So sum means addition, and our variable was n. So we're just going to do n plus 6. For 15, we have 15 decreased by the quotient of a number and 3 is 20. So here's our is, so I'm going to have equals 20. And then I have 15 decreased by the quotient of a number and 3. So 15 decreased by means I should just put 15 minus, because decreased by is minus. And I have the quotient, so division, of a number and 3. Okay, so there's a lot going on here with all of these words, and they can look overwhelming, but as long as you're breaking it down individually to each part and just focusing on certain words at a time, it does make it more manageable. So for number 16, we have 4 less than the product of a number and 7 is 8 more than that number. So I'm going to focus on is first. So here's is, so I'm breaking this in half. I'm going to go ahead and start with the right side, which would be this side. So we're going to do 8 more than that number. So 8 more than that number would be 8 plus n, because it's 8 more than the number. And now this part says 4 less than the product of a number and 7. Well, I know less than is a turnaround phrase. So I'm going to do 4 less than, so minus 4. And I have the product, multiplication, of a number and 7. Okay? So as long as you're looking for those keywords, this shouldn't be too difficult. Now for inequalities, we have different words that you want to look for. So less than means you want the less than symbol. Less than or equal to means you want the less than or equal to sign. Greater than, you obviously want the greater than symbol. And then greater than or equal to. So we're going to use that to help us build our examples here. So number 17 says a number is less than negative 10. So a number, n, is less than negative 10. Okay, so these ones literally just tell you what symbol to use most of the time. So there's not too much you have to read into, except for the whole part about setting up the expression. So instead of just having is showing equals, they're going to tell you what inequality to use. So for number 18, it says a number is less than or equal to 8. So we have a number is less than or equal to 8. Okay. For number 19, we have a number is greater than or equal to negative 4. So we have a number greater than or equal to negative 4. For 20, it says a number is at most 45. Okay, so that means the biggest this number can be is 45. Well, if the biggest the number can be is 45, that means we want any number less than it. So this is saying that we need n to be less than or equal to 45, because the biggest it can be is 45, or it can also be smaller than 45 when it says at most. So at most, and you might want to write this one down since it's not on the paper, means you're less than or you're equal to. Okay? And then that would mean that at least the opposite would be the opposite symbol, which is greater than or equal to. Okay, so keep that in mind as we're working. So number 21 says a speed limit of 55 miles per hour. So if you have a speed limit, that means that that is the fastest you can go. That is at most 55 miles per hour. So that means your number needs to be less than or equal to 55. For number 22, it says a number is at least 16. And at least means that at minimum, the smallest it can be is 16, but it can also be bigger. So we want it to be bigger than or equal to 16. Number 23, a number is no less than 10. So if it says no less than, that's saying it wants the opposite. Okay? It's no less than 10. So it can be 10, it can be 11, it can be 12. It just can't be less than. So n can be greater than or equal to 10. For 24, a number is no more than 26. So this is the opposite. 26 is the biggest it can go, but it can also be smaller. So n is less than or equal to 26. For number 25, it says a maximum number of 25. So the biggest it can be is 25, but it can also be less. Okay, so we want to use the less than or equal to sign. And then for 26, it says a minimum number of 5. So that means the smallest it can be is 5, but it can also be bigger. Okay, so you just need to really just think about what these words mean and think about how it would be used in real life in order to really have an easier time understanding what symbol you need to use. So you really just need to use your common sense and just think about, well, what is this sentence telling me? Break it down if you have to. And for now, you get to use those keywords. On quizzes and tests, you won't get the keyword sheet, but you will be able to use that up until that time. So just think about, how would this work in real life? Like, how can I read this so it makes sense to me? Just, you actually have to think about it. It's not so cut and dry where it's just, oh, it's this, it's this, it's this, especially in these inequality examples.